Moving forward here, looking domestic, looking locally throughout the U.S., we're still running through planting and we're still seeing some tricky planting conditions in certain parts of the U.S. Looking, into maybe Illinois and over into Missouri and some other areas, we're still seeing a lot of rainfall and maybe pulling out of some wet conditions further east of there. So, Ben, when we're looking at crops like corn, what types of yield potentials are you looking at early on this season as we see some of these challenges maybe with planting?
Well, last week, so I guess not the most recent week of data, because we planted or we've had some areas being able to plant a little bit over the last week, but last Monday when we got the updated crop conditions ratings and progress, we saw a pretty decent week of planting progress, and that helped kind of fill that gap of late planted corn, or shrink that gap of the percentage of the corn crop that was planted late. At this point, everybody starts to think about, okay, well, what is our new maximum national average yield, and what could that be? And we've got a long growing season ahead of us, and certainly people are still planting, and the crops are, kind of just now, maybe in some cases, or in the areas where they were able to get planted, the corn is just now hitting some of that nitrogen that's in the ground. So we got a long ways to go, and there's a lot of factors that are going to impact national average corn yield. But I will remind folks that there's things along the way that we can look at and say, okay, does that limit some of our corn potential? And I do think we have seen a little bit of that come down. So I wouldn't be surprised that as we move through the growing season, we start talking about a 179 national average corn yield versus a 181 national average corn yield. I do think that we've taken a bushel and a half to maybe 2 bushels off of maybe that ceiling of the corn crop. Still possible to produce a very large crop, even at 179 bushels the acre. That would be a new national average yield record. But I do think we have taken some of that off, and it's going to be, we don't talk about this enough, but when you have corn kind of emerging at different stages, whether that's because it was replanted due to flooding or because there was heavy rainstorm that crusted over the soil and we just didn't get good emergence. Managing corn at different growth stages is a challenge, and that becomes a yield limiting factor too as we look ahead. So still the potential for a record national average corn crop, but maybe not as rosy as what I would have or what we would have thought 5 months ago, 4 months ago.